So one night while I was trying to sleep, I had a vision or dream, and I call it the Sandcastle parable. And what I saw was hundreds or thousands of people along the beach, and they were all making sandcastles. And you know how when you're making a sandcastle, you have to dig down a hole deep first to get the wet, moist sand. So that's what they were doing. And some people stayed in their holes the whole time. They never left their hole. They just looked around. Some people played and joked and shared the time with their family. And they worked hard and they built their castles. Some people had small castles. Some people had huge castles like Donald Trump. Some people had comfortable castles. And some people had messy castles. Some people had castles that were very humble and modest. And you can see everyone working hard, putting work and sweat and effort into everything they were doing. Some people had beautiful castles that were admired by everyone. And some people had very sophisticated castles that meant a lot to them. And some people weren't so lucky. Some people had big families they shared their castles with. And again, some people weren't so lucky. But whoever they were, everyone was busy building these castles. And they had to go to work to make sure they had enough sand, so they built sand cars, they built sand sports stadiums, they built sand cathedrals and mosques and temples, they built sand idols. And what I started to notice was that these people, a lot of them weren't aware that this was not real. They were not aware that it was just sand. They thought it was real. They were hypnotized in this illusion. And they didn't notice that eventually the tide would come in. It's inevitable, whatever time it's going to be, it doesn't matter. Eventually the tide will come in and wash away everything they've built. So I saw people start to panic, and some people tried to stop the tide, but you can't stop the tide. And they started to cry and get upset and say, why, God, why did you wash away all the things we worked on, everything we've believed in, we put into these sandcastles? Why are they being washed away? It's not fair. They lamented, they cried, they suffered for what they had lost. But some people realized that these were just sandcastles, and they were fine because they had built inside of themselves their real home, their real castles, just there in the center of themselves in the dark where no one can see. No one can take it away from them. They can never be hurt. They can never be washed away by the tide. The things that really matter. So you don't have to hate sandcastles. You just have to love yourself.